Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Greta, and I'm part of the KHDA Wellbeing team. I'm joined today by my colleagues Aruna, Nada, Noha, Lubna, Luke, and Kamaria, and together we'll be facilitating today's workshop. Welcome to week 2 of the Dubai School Wellbeing Workshop for 2021. It's really good to see so many familiar names in the chat today. Last week we heard some amazing presentations by students and international wellbeing experts, and we hope you had a chance to join some of those workshops. If not, don't worry, all the sessions have been recorded, and we will be sharing them on the New Days, New Ways website at the end of this week. To start this workshop today, as usual, we'd like to use Menti platform as a way to engage with you. So as we wait for a few more people to join us, please log in to menti.com. You can open a new page on your laptop or you can use your phone. Once you're on the website, please enter the code 84893419. You can also read the code on the top of the slide, and we are posting it in our chat. Before we start with some questions and before we welcome our wonderful speaker, Erika, we'd like to play a short video with highlights from the Dubai Student Wellbeing Census and Adult at School survey. There's some highlights from the results for this year, so we can play it now. Just a few seconds and the video should start.
2020 was a year like no other. Our lives changed, and we changed. Through all this, our well-being became more important than ever. In November and December 2020, more than 100,000 students from 163 nationalities from grade 6 to 12 across 189 schools completed the Dubai Student Wellbeing Census, the 4th year in a 5-year initiative. At the same time, more than 10,000 school staff across Dubai completed the Adults at School Wellbeing Survey. Both the census and the survey are designed to give our community the chance to make themselves heard and to give school leaders the data they need to improve well-being in meaningful ways. The results show the areas where we thrived and where we struggled. One of the most important indicators of high well-being is getting a good night's sleep. This year, students in Dubai slept better than they have for years. 60% of students in grades 6 to 9 and more than 40% of students in grade 10 to 12 said they had a good night's sleep at least 5 nights a week, a great improvement on the previous 3 years. They also had better and more meaningful relationships with their teachers. Emotional engagement with teachers, another indicator correlated with high well-being, has been slowly increasing since the first census 4 years ago. This year, it jumped to 70% for students in grades 6 to 9 and to 65% for students in grades 10 to 12. Our well-being improves when we have the language to talk about it. This year, students' wellbeing literacy continued to get better, with more students saying that they feel comfortable communicating about their well-being. More students also found that their relationships with their friends actually improved. They also felt more confident about their schoolwork. And they did more physical activity than in the previous year. Satisfaction with life increased for boys, but stayed about the same for girls in grades 6 to 9. Adults at Dubai schools felt the impact of 2020 differently. Fewer adults said they were consistently thriving compared with last year, and more said they were struggling. More adults said it was harder to switch off from work, and many worked longer hours. Sleep was shown to be just as important for adults as it is for students. The adults who said they were thriving had better quality of sleep. And just like the students, more adults said they were feeling physically stronger and healthier than in the previous year. 2020 was a year that challenged us all in different ways, but living in Dubai, we knew it would make us stronger. Throughout the pandemic, Dubai students, teachers, school staff and parents have worked together to make sure that no matter what happened, we always had each other. Whatever 2021 brings us, we know we'll still be strong and we'll still be hopeful of a happy and fulfilling future.
Thank you so much, Nada, for playing this video, and a huge thank you to all our Wellbeing champions who have helped us throughout the collection period. Now, we'd like to ask you, have you reviewed your school's Wellbeing census results? If you are just joining us now, please log into menti.com and use the code 84893419. So have you reviewed your school's Wellbeing census results? Okay, it's good to see that we have some people who already had the chance to review them. It's a lot of data, so it will take some time to unpack, and the session this week should help you with practices that worked in other schools in Dubai. So please, if you have not logged into menti.com, open a new web page and join us for a couple of questions before we start the session today. Okay. It will be very interesting to get questions during the session from those who already had the chance to review the results. Okay, we move to the next question. The Dubai Student Wellbeing Census 2020 results for my school were better than I thought they would be, about the same as I thought they would be, worse than I thought they would be. And please, for those who didn't have a chance to review the results, who have some issues accessing the platform with the report, please email us on wellbeingcensus@khda.gov.ae and we'll help you with login. Interesting to see that most of you think that the results are better than they thought. We'd like to invite everyone who is in the session today to have menti.com open, and with the code that you read in our chat, as we'll be using it throughout the session. Very interesting results. I would now like to welcome the wonderful Erika El-Kadi. Erika is the head of secondary at Jumeirah Baccalaureate School. Her focus today is on the area of relationship at school, and in particular, the teacher's role in strengthening character education. Erika will share how the school has unpacked her school's student wellbeing census data and the strategies and intervention that have worked in her school and next steps in their wellbeing journey. I will be back at the end of Erica's session to facilitate the Q&A discussion. Please, if you have any question, add it to the chat feature on the right of your screen. For now, over to you, Erica. Thank you again. Bear with us while we display the slides for Erica. That's perfect. Welcome, Erica.
Okay, thank you, Greta, for your very kind introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. And we can see your slides.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Again, thank you very much for your very kind introduction. And also thank you so much for inviting me to be here today with you. I will speak today a little bit about our story. And of course, the story is different for every school. But I hope that some of the things that we have implemented at JBS over the past 4 years will be of benefit to other schools. So JBS was invited in May of 2017 to be a pilot school in the Dubai Student Wellbeing Census. And it was really interesting for me that the KHDA had this initiative and was really focusing on the importance of student well-being. And it was actually something of great interest to me because we tend in our schools to really focus on student results. And so it was amazing to see that the KHDA started to shift towards the importance of student well-being. And so this really got my attention and interest, and I started to read quite a lot about, how we could improve our student well-being, because the pilot, but also the results that we got in November of 2017 actually, were slightly different than what we had anticipated. And so we really listened to the student voice in our data. And what we felt was most important was actually to work on the relationships between teachers and students in the school. And of course, in a city like Dubai, we have quite a challenge because staff turnover is rather high. And you see that, in other international schools, in other places of the world, the student turnover is actually much higher than the staff turnover. So that was a challenge that we felt we needed to address. And we also needed to speak with our teachers about the importance of the relationships and the will, as well as the skill to address those relationships. And so 4 years later, or actually 3 years later, we became the Kitemark School of Character, and we are very proud that we are the first school outside the United Kingdom that has become a Kitemark school. So it says here at our plaque that we undertake character education in an explicit, planned, conscious and reflective way. And so the question really actually is, what is a school of character? And character education actually goes back all the way to Plato and Aristotle. And this is a picture of Aristotle, who actually, and he didn't define that because now we have neo-Aristotelian approach to character education, which is very much that, all the activities that are conducted inside and outside the classroom, which help to develop positive character traits or virtues in students, that is character education. And the overall aim is that we will have flourishing individuals and a society where people feel well and are able, as a result, to perform. So character, or good character, is built around 4 building blocks. And you see on the left and on the right the intellectual and the performance virtues. And these are actually the virtues, the character strengths that we tend to address in our schools. However, the neo-Aristotelian approach of character education is very much focused on the moral virtues. And that's actually, you know, our starting point, that we need to have good character, that we need to have compassion and courage and integrity and respect, humility, before the other virtues fall into place. And I always give the example of, you know, the Home Alone movie, where these thieves, they are very perseverant. They keep trying to break into the house. And you can say, well, that's great, you know, they have that performance virtue of grit and determination and motivation and perseverance. But that's not the kind of virtue that we want to develop in our students if that moral virtue is not the starting point. So we want determination and motivation and perseverance for good reasons, for a good character. So these building blocks of character have been developed by the Jubilee Center for Character and Virtues, which is affiliated with the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom. They have a lot of lesson plans online. They're all for free for primary and secondary schools. So you can, you know, download them and tweak them for the context of your own school. So that's something really to look into. So this is, you know, what we are trying to instill in our students during the lessons, but also outside the lessons. But of course, it's very important that even though you can teach good character, 80% of good character is actually caught. So that means that what is the role of the teacher? Now, the parents lay the first building blocks of good character, and then we as teachers have a very significant role to play here as well. So what is really the role of the teacher if we are saying that good character is being caught? So if your students see that you are motivated, that you are hardworking, that you have a set of morals that they appreciate and respect, then the students will copy that behavior. So what I would like you to do actually now is to go back into the past, have a think about who was your favorite teacher. Think of one teacher, or maybe two, but not more than that. And then just write down what were, you know, the reasons that this person was your favorite teacher. And when you have done that, take a minute to think about who was your least favorite teacher and why was this person your least favorite teacher. So I just give you a couple of minutes to have a good think about it and just write down in bullet points the reasons why someone was your favorite or your least favorite teacher. Okay, good. I hope you have been able to do this. This is also, by the way, a great activity to do with your teachers, to help them to go back to the times that they were students and how they were able to build relationships with their teachers. So you may have heard of Marvin Berkowitz. He is a character educationist from the United States. A few years ago, he was invited by the KHDA to speak during the Dubai Student Wellbeing Census data results, if I'm not mistaken. The book that I got the characteristics of our best and worst teachers from is listed here as well. It's a very easy to read book. It's not, you know, at a very high academic level, so it's a great book to read before you go to sleep. But what does Berkowitz say about the characteristics of our best teachers? And keep this in mind and see if that connects with what you have written down about who you consider and why you consider your favorite teacher to be the best teacher. So he says, you know, personal relationships with students. So not necessarily professional relationships to talk about the subject, but real personal relationships with the students. Make learning and the classroom fun, a happy place to be where kids want to be. You have to set high standards, expect high performance. Students pick up very quickly if teachers are trying to, you know, to cut corners. Model a passion for learning and knowledge. And again, this is something that students will catch from the teacher and see potential in students that others don't see. And then go above and beyond the standard constraints of the school day for students. And what he means by that is not that you work 24/7, but if the students, they have, for example, a football match or a basketball game, maybe you can attend once in a while, or the next day ask how it was going. If you know that the student's family circumstances are very challenging, just to check in with that child at the end of the day. So to build really that personal relationship. Now, when I read his 6 bullet points of characteristics of our best teachers, what I noticed right away is that he is not really talking about, you know, the subject knowledge that we teach or behavior management in the classroom. He's really talking about connecting with students, pushing students to do well, have high expectations of students because you really believe that they can do better. And so this to me was an eye-opener, because if you think about what we do in teacher training college, is actually what we learn is how do we teach our subject, how do we do a lot of the admin work, you know, writing lesson plans, setting assessments, how do we manage our students, but none of this is actually really addressed in a teacher training college program. And then what does he say about our worst teachers? They're mean. And he says, you know, for reasons that, you know, sometimes have to do something with race or with language or with social economic background of the students. They humiliate students in public. They are insensitive to student pain or crisis, so they would not follow up, or they would not, even though they are aware that the student's personal circumstances may be very difficult, they are not checking in with the student and asking how they are doing. Rigid, inflexible, unfair. This is the teacher who's not willing, you know, to move an assessment, or is not allowing a student, you know, to go to the bathroom or to have a sip of water. We know those people, and they simply don't seem to care about students or you know, their teaching. And again, you know, students really pick up on that. They feel whether a teacher is really engaged and is having a good time in the classroom and really wants to be there and wants to be there with them. So what happens at JBS? Well, when we started to read up on some of the literature, we started to look at our teachers. And as I said before, we did say that, you know, as an international school in Dubai, staff turnover is sometimes high. So what kind of teachers do we really want to have at JBS? And so we said that, you know, our teachers need to be moral teachers. And what we mean by that is that they need to have good character themselves. And then on top of that, they also need to be teachers of morality. So you don't have to be teaching, moral education, but every teacher, and in all the time during the school days, there are opportunities for teachers to teach morality. If a student says something that is unkind or not caring, the teacher needs to have the will and the skill to stop that class and to say, what happened here? Because foremost, we are teaching students, and then secondly, we are teaching, our subject. So it was very important for us that when we started to recruit our teachers, that these teachers, they are people of good character, but at the same time that they have the will and to some extent also the skill to stop a class and to address issues that are arising, whether it is from what students are saying in the classroom or whether it is the content that is being taught during the day. So we started to look at internal professional development as well as external professional development. And it's very important for us that our teachers understand that the curriculum can wait, that the relationship building is something that, is what we feel something that, we prioritize. And so one of the things that we are doing now is that the homeroom teachers, they are calling the parents at the start of the year. In the beginning, the parents were a little bit worried, like, why is the school calling? But we are calling at the start of the year, making in secondary calls home during the year and at the end of the year as well, just to have that relationship with the parents as well. It's important that the parents understand that our agenda is very much based on building relationships with students. And of course, it's very important then to have good relationships with the parents as well. So we really work as a team. So if you look at the domain in the Dubai Student Wellbeing Census, which is called Relationships and Learning, then we have seen that over the past 4 years, things are moving in the right direction. And we think that connectedness to adults at school had a little bit of a dip in 2020 because the census took place in November, and that's when we just got out of the lockdown. But you see that the emotional engagement with teachers is improving. School climate has been going up, school belonging has been going up, and safe at school as well. So we all feel that we are going in the right direction. And then the same we can say in the 4 different areas of bullying. And we have worked on that as well. We had Beat the Cyberbully coming into school to talk to students and to talk to parents as well. And of course, the teachers. And again, we are very much focusing on that the teachers, they have the confidence and the courage, to stop a class, to address it before we move on. So these are all positive patterns. So now what next? Well, we will continue professional development for staff, and of course at the start of the new school year, when we have new teachers joining us, we will continue addressing the importance of relationships. There are, as I said before, a lot of materials by the Jubilee Center for Character and Virtues. There are lesson plans, but there are also online, free of charge PD opportunities to teach character education in the school. And as I said before, it's important that you do that during school hours, but also after school hours. And then the Association for Character Education also has PD opportunities. Some of them are online, but you can also ask them to visit the school. And at the moment, of course, it's all online. So what we have seen now is that our teachers are becoming more and more interested in character education. And so it's very good news that a character education working group started this school year. And so now we not only have the importance of character education that comes from the school leaders, but we see that the teachers are now enthusiastic about it as well. And then if we have the parents squeezing it in the middle, then we are having hopefully a very successful character education program in the school. But one would expect that when well-being improves, that the learning subdomains of the Dubai's student well-being census would improve as well. And we have not seen that yet. And even though we do expect an impact, as I said, the data is not showing this. And the data is, after all, what our students are telling. So you see that it's a little bit wobbly here. Learning practices, meeting expectations, engagement flow, and I know all of Dubai engagement flow looks like this, but this is something that we really need to look into, and we need to ask our students as well why this is the case. Schoolwork has declined in 2020, cognitive engagement a little bit as well, and academic self-concept is more or less the same. So the data tells us a lot because, as I said, it's our students who are actually telling us how they feel, and we need to take that data seriously. We do that with our student council. We will have a meeting very soon that we go over the Dubai Student Wellbeing Census data with our students. We will do that with our parents as well. We will look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. But then, of course, we need to decide what are we going to do to improve in certain areas. We are at the moment a school of character, so we are really focusing on materials from the Jubilee Center for Character and Virtues. They have an evaluation framework as well, so a school can self-assess them against different criteria. There's also the PRIME model by Berkowitz, who, by the way, just published a new book. I don't know if you can see it, called Primed, and that is his model. The P is for the priority of character education. The R is for relationships. I is intrinsic motivation. And you can look that up yourselves as well. But there's a lot of information by the Center for Character and Citizenship, and that's mainly Marvin Berkowitz who's behind that. The Association for Character Education, you may be interested in that as well. Maybe you would like to become a kite mark school. So please have a look at what they offer and how they can support you. And then on the right are 11 principles for effective character education. You can go to their website called character.org and you can look at their 11 principles. One of them is indeed relationships. And then the father of character education is Thomas Licona, and he has written quite a number of books as well since the late 1980s, early 90s till now, and has also a lot of tips and hints for schools on how to introduce a character education program in the school and how to improve the relationships between teachers and students. And then in the center, it's something that you're probably most familiar with because this is the model that the Geelong Grammar School, the Institute of Positive Education, is using. This is based on Martin Seligman's PERMA model, which is slightly different than the thinking of character educationists, but there is a lot of overlap. And at the end of the day, what we all want is that our students are able to flourish and do well in society. So this is the end of my presentation, and now it's time for Q&A. Can I hand over to you, Greta? And then I stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Erika, for the beautiful and clear presentation, and congratulations for being the first kite mark school outside the UK.
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed your activity, and looking back at the time I was a student, definitely those I still remember as my best teachers were able to connect with us, build meaningful relationship, and really they had the courage to stop a lesson and address issues they may arise before moving on with their session, with their subject. So now open to Q&A from our audience. Please post your questions on the chat, and we'll read them to Erica. The first question for you, Erica, is how does your work in character education align with your school's implementation of the moral education curriculum?
Okay, that is a really good question. Yes. So, you know, what character educationists promote is that you have stand-alone character education or moral education lessons. And for us, it was therefore, you know, very easy actually to follow the moral education curriculum. We are a little bit flexible. We teach a little bit more than the requirement by the MOE. But so we have in secondary, we have standalone moral education lessons. And then again, you know, we very often say in education that all teachers are language teachers, right? Well, also all teachers are teachers of morals. And what we have seen in the past decades is that we have this, you know, obsession, if I may call it that way, with student results and with league tables. And teachers very often, you know, they feel very pressured because there is a lot at stake, and they get this, you know, from their school leaders as well. And we have said, you know what, student results are very important. But most important is student well-being, and most important is that the teachers, they have the will and the skill to build the relationships with the students. So good character education, as you know, that was one of the first slides I started with. Good character educations are all the activities inside and outside the lesson. So it's not only that we teach character education or, you know, how to be a good person, you know, in our moral education lesson. It is something that is important in all lessons, and it's also very important what happens outside school in extracurricular or after school activities. And it's also something that, you know, we are working on with our parents. Our parents, they need to become, you know, partners. As I said earlier, the foundation of good character is at home. And we as teachers, we are, you know, building on that. So it is important that we also work with the parents, that we all have a very good understanding of the virtues, the character strengths that we all value. And you see, for example, that especially in international schools, and this is why I think it's one of the reasons, you know, why the Indian schools in Dubai, that the well-being is at such a high level. And to me, that is because, you know, what the parents value at home is what the teachers also value. Because, and then the other thing is that, you know, staff turnover in Indian schools here in Dubai is not as high as it is in some of the international schools. So you see that everybody is on the same page. What we in international schools need to do, we need to ensure that what the parents value at home is also what we value in the school. And if I can give you an example, it's, for example, you know, loyalty versus honesty. So while we Westerners very often say to students, but, you know, we need to know who did what, and you need to be honest, and honesty is very important, they hear at home that loyalty and friendship is important and that you should not snitch. So now our kids, they get conflicting virtues here, you know. So what are they going to do? Are they going to follow what the parents say, or are they going to follow what their teacher is saying? And so we need to be more aware of the virtues that are being valued at home. And our teachers need to understand that we should at times try to avoid, putting our students in these conflict situations where they don't know what to do anymore because they hear different messages. And that's why, it is so important that if we look at character education and moral education as set by the MOE, that we have a really good understanding of what are we doing, why are we doing it, and what is the outcome that we are trying to have at the end. And I hope that answered the question. I went a little bit off, but I think that part of the character education program is to really get the parents on board. And
Thank you so much for this reflection, and really to stress the importance of parents become partners in this journey. A few more questions for you. Is the Jubilee Center material suitable for American curriculum, or they have a tailored version for American curriculum?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. And the answer is yes, because good character, and with good character, what we actually mean, is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. So you need to understand what is right, you need to feel it, and then you need to act upon it. It's great that I know that stealing is a bad thing, but when I'm a thief, then it still doesn't work. So good character is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. So it doesn't matter if you are doing an American curriculum or a Chinese curriculum or the International Baccalaureate curriculum. Good character is good character. As Seligman and his research showed that there are 24 universal virtues or character strengths. But at the end of the day, everybody knows what good character is. Stealing, lying, etc. is not acceptable anywhere in the world. So yes, all the resources that are by the Jubilee Center or the Association for Character Education, and I know that IPEN has a lot of free materials as well. You can use that in any curriculum. Sometimes you need to tweak it a little bit for your particular school context. For example, the Jubilee Center has some samples that I don't think would work really well in the context of Dubai when they are talking about teenage pregnancy. Well, then you change that and you take a different example. So you need to tweak it a little bit for the Dubai context, but it is totally suitable for any curriculum.
Thank you so much. One more next question. How do social counselors at your school support students and teachers' well-being? What are their services they offer?
Well, it's not only our school counselor. It is very much, the leadership team that, we are very aware at the moment of the challenges that our teachers are having. It's not easy. And the results from the November questionnaire are very clear as well, that even though the students seem to do much better, they seem to be more resilient, the teachers are having a harder time at the moment, which is totally understandable. And I don't think that's only because we are running around between grade bubbles. Mentally, it is tough as well. So at JBS, we have done a number of things to support our teachers, especially teachers who were struggling. And our school counselor, pastoral counselor, is checking up with those teachers as well. She's also in touch with a lot of our students. See, it's very easy to approach her. And so we have been able to, well, one of the things that we did is we start a little bit later. We have reduced our break times because the students are in their bubble. They cannot go out and play on the field. So we have reduced both breaks. So that means that students and teachers can go home a little bit earlier. We have had teachers with health concerns that they were not able to come to school, so they have been teaching online. That meant that we needed to have some extra manpower in the school to be with the students, but we have been trying to facilitate that as well. We have had a couple of people who have been on leave, so we are trying as much as we can to support our teachers. And when there is a concern, then the pastoral counselor checks in with the teachers right away. So we're really on top of that, and to make sure that everyone's health is as good as it can be under the current circumstances.
Thank you so much, Erika. Next question. How can we include character education in early years?
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. And it is actually something that we very often do automatically. You know, in a pre-KG class, teachers are already talking about, you know, fairness and unfairness, and they are talking about rules and why there are rules, and there are lots of morals in stories that teachers, you know, share with students. There is a very good book by Dr. Tom Harrison, and it's called Character Education in the Primary Classroom. And Dr. Tom Harrison is also working at the Jubilee Center for Character and Virtues. And the book is easily available on Amazon. So it's Dr. Tom Harrison, and the title is Character Education in the Primary Classroom. It has lots of lesson plans in the book as well. It first starts with an explanation of what character education is, and then there are some lesson plans, some topics that teachers can address. But again, you know, character education actually starts with 3-year-old children, because they already have an awareness of fairness, and they have an awareness of honesty, etc., etc. So lots of materials, again, available on the Jubilee Center's website, also for primary school children.
Thank you. We have time for a couple extra questions. Next one is, JBS is an IB school. Is there anything special about introducing character education in IB curriculum school as compared to UK schools? In other words, does the school curriculum matter?
No, because good character is good character, right? And I feel that the majority of us are in education. We became teachers because it was a calling. We want to work with young people. Now we go to the teacher training, and then actually, you know, it's all about the subject knowledge and how do you share that with students. It's about assessment, it's about writing lesson plans. And a deficit in the teacher training program is actually that, you know, we are not focusing on building relationships and teaching good character to our students. So it is a moral obligation for every teacher, you know, to build relationships with students, because when kids feel safe in the school, then the learning can take place. And as I was trying to show in my presentation, is that we are waiting to see that, you know, if the well-being is in place, then the learning needs to follow. And if you look at the Institute of, or the IPEN logo, it's, you know, student achievement and well-being, they are interwoven, because one, you cannot separate from the other. So to come back to that question, I feel that the IB curriculum is very suitable for a character education program or a positive education program, because if you look at these virtues, these building blocks, and I was saying, you know, the intellectual and the performance virtues, that's what we tend to teach. We don't always, you know, look so much at the moral virtues, but intellectual and performance is there. Now the question is, are we teaching that in a planned and conscious way? And very often we don't do that. And in IB schools, I think we can do a much better job. We are not teaching that in a explicit and conscious way. And so if you want to do that, then you can do that in any curriculum school, but you need to plan it, because it does not start by itself. So the question is, you know, how do you teach perseverance explicitly? How do you teach, you know, your students to be motivated and that they have a real desire to do well? How do you teach teamwork? We very often say to kids, oh yeah, you just work together in a team, but we do not explicitly teach them those skills. And so those skills are virtues. Yeah. So I hope that answered the question a little bit.
Absolutely, thank you. Next one is very interesting. What if there is a resistance from majority of the teachers and students? Students generally in my school have become more resistant during this pandemic and do not listen to teachers.
Okay, well, the question is, why don't they listen? So what do we need to do differently? And so for me, what is very important is that student voice. And so what we are trying to do now more often is to listen to the students to get feedback. But also it is important that you take that time to sit with each other, to listen to each other, to talk, and that they also understand where we are coming from. Because sometimes we don't explain why certain things cannot happen or why certain things need to happen. And so when they have an understanding that what we are doing is always with the best interest of the students at heart, they become, more open-minded as well. They're also then being able to see things from a different perspective. So if you feel that the students are not engaged or that the students are not doing what is being asked, then the question is, have you asked your students why?
Thank you very much again. Last question. Who's teaching character education in your school? Is it the teachers or counselor? So your explicit classes.
Yeah.
And is it for all grade levels?
Yes. So a couple of questions in one. It's not the counselor. As I was saying, we're all teachers of language, even a math teacher and a science teacher, we're all teaching language. And so we're all teaching, good character. So it doesn't need to be the school counselor, because in my opinion, when the school counselor teaches that lesson, then everybody else, and I'm talking about the teachers, then feel, oh, but this is not my cup of tea. And again, we most of us, the vast majority of teachers are in this profession because we like to work with young children or adolescents. That's what we chose to do. For many of us, it was a calling. So we are all teachers of character. In my school, it is teachers who volunteered, who are very passionate about it, who wanted to do it. But we have also approached some other teachers and say, it will be very good if you were to teach a character education class. So it's a little bit a mixed bag. The good news, as I said, is that we have a working group now of teachers who volunteered to get together and to take initiatives in the school. And so it becomes more organic, that it comes from the bottom up, and it's not only what the school leaders would like to see. We have in secondary moral education lessons that are standalone classes. In primary, they may move into that direction. They have the primary, the PYP program, the early years. And so they have at the moment more embedded in all their lessons. So I think I answered all the questions to this one.
Yes. Thank you so much, Erika. Before everyone leaves, I kindly ask you to share some feedback on today's session by answering 2 questions through the Menti platform. So please go back to menti.com. If you were not logged in before, please type the code that you see on top of the screen. And we'd like to know what you think about the quality of the content of this webinar, the structure, and the presenter, and the preparedness in responding to questions. We can see some great feedback coming in. And we'd really value if you could all log in and share your feedback, please. And please do know that we have recorded this session. It will be shared at the end of this week on New Days, New Ways website. And we hope you will be able to join us tomorrow at 12:30 Dubai time for another interesting session with Katrina Mancani from San School. Katrina will share insights on their strategies to improve school belonging. If you have not registered yet for this session, please click on the link that should be posted on the chat. One more question: what are the key takeaways that you will take from this webinar? This is an open question. Just type in a few words. Good character is good character regardless of the curriculum. That's a very good reflection. Character is the most important skill students should learn. Amazing webinar. Thanks for sharing the resources. Great feedback. Thank you so much. Good. We can see the some attendees will really try to focus on character education, education at heart. We have more great feedback on your presentation, Erika.
Thank you.
Great. Also, they have appreciated the resources that have been shared. Thank you again. And remember, we are creating a culture of well-being and not an add-on and not something you do once in a while. It's important to commit to it as a school and integrating well-being into the heart and the curriculum of the school. Thank you again to my colleagues who helped facilitating the session, and thank you to our wonderful Erika, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.